All right, I've got a little political test for you. And look, this isn't about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or what your favorite policies are. Nope, this one, it's designed to go way deeper than all of that.
So the big question is, will you pass? Because this is really a test of how you see power itself, how it works, who should have it, and I think it might just reveal something kind of surprising about your own gut instincts when it comes to politics. Okay, so here it is, the big question. It's a little weird, I'll admit. Ask yourself this. Does your favorite politician align more with Brian McClanahan or Patrick Deneen? And yeah, I can almost hear you thinking, who in the world are those guys, right? Unless you're way, way deep into political theory, those names probably mean nothing.
And you know what? If that question feels strange, that means it's already working. You really don't need to know who they are. Just think of them as placeholders, as symbols for two totally different ways of looking at what's wrong with society, and, maybe more importantly, how we should go about fixing it.
So let's unpack this. We're going to get right to the heart of the test. It's really all about two competing instincts, a fundamental divide that honestly doesn't really care about our usual left versus right political labels. Okay, let's break this down, because this is the key to everything. On one side, you've got what we're calling the McClanahan instinct. For this way of thinking, the number one danger is concentrated power, too much authority in one place. Its faith is in individuals and local communities to figure things out. Then, on the other side, you have the Deneen instinct. For this side, the big scary thing is moral and social breakdown, society falling apart at the seams. And to fix that, well, it puts its faith in a strong, central authority to come in and restore order. And here's the really interesting part. Both sides agree that things are not going well. Their disagreement is all about the cure.
So, the key thing to get here is that this test totally ignores slogans and shiny campaign promises. It forces you to think structurally. It's not about what a politician promises to do, but how they plan to do it. It's a test of their methods, their means, not just their stated goals.
Here's a good way to think about it. Let's say we can all agree that society is in trouble. That's our diagnosis, right? But the real question is about the prescription. What's the cure? Do you think the solution is decentralized? Lots of different people in their own communities figuring it out for themselves? That's the McClanahan instinct. Or do you think the solution has to be centralized, a single strong plan coming from the top to fix the problem for everyone? That's the Deneen instinct. See? Everyone agrees on the problem, but the proposed solutions are worlds apart.
Now, to make this all feel a little less abstract, let's tie it to something really concrete, a powerful historical example. We're talking about the American Revolution. Because this exact divide between these two instincts, it really mirrors the old split between the Patriots and the Loyalists.
So if you look at the Patriot worldview, it was powered by ideas from thinkers like John Locke and Adam Smith. And what was the core belief? A deep, deep distrust of concentrated power. And this incredible faith that regular people, working together in their own communities, could build a better world than any top-down central plan ever could. Sound familiar? That's basically the McClanahan instinct, just back in the 1700s.
But here's what's so important to remember. The colonists, they didn't start out as radicals, not at all. Back in 1770, they were mostly loyal British subjects just asking the system to treat them fairly. So what changed? It wasn't some philosophy book they all read. It was experience. It was the feeling of a distant government's grip getting tighter and tighter. It was watching their appeals just get ignored. It was the day-in, day-out reality of unchecked power that finally turned them into patriots.
And this right here really nails the core of that shift. The Patriot turn, it wasn't just them changing their mind about the king. No, it was a fundamental change in confidence. First, they lost all confidence that the central government would ever restrain itself. But just as important, they gained the confidence that, hey, you know what? We can actually run things pretty well ourselves without them. Okay, so fast forward to today. How does this history lesson actually apply to our politics right now? Well, this is where things get really, really interesting. Because when you start applying this framework, it just completely scrambles the teams we're all used to. Get this, it's actually estimated that only about 15 to 30% of us, and that's across all parties, can consistently think this way. So why is it so hard? Well, it's because our brains are basically wired for tribal thinking, for my team versus your team, not for this kind of deep structural analysis of how power actually works. Just look at some of these surprising alignments. When you filter by this test, you find figures like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump actually end up in the same camp. They both represent that Deneen instinct, a trust in using the levers of strong, centralized executive power to get things done. On the other hand, you have figures like Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. They align with the McClanahan instinct, a deep fundamental distrust of that same centralized power. See how it cuts right across party lines? It's not about Democrat versus Republican. It's about their approach to power itself.
And all of this brings us to a quote that just perfectly captures modern politics. The spectacle is partisan. The expansion is bipartisan. Think about that for a second. All the fighting we see on TV, the cable news debates, that's the partisan spectacle. But behind the scenes, the actual power of the centralized government, that just keeps expanding no matter which party is in the White House. So, what's the real takeaway here? Maybe, just maybe, the most important political divide in America today isn't between left and right at all. Maybe it's this deeper chasm between those who, at their core, trust centralized power to be a tool for good and those who fundamentally distrust it as a threat to our freedom.
And that brings us full circle, right back to you. Now that you have the framework, now that you see the two competing instincts, it's time to turn this test on yourself. So, what is it? What's your gut instinct? When you look at the big problems out there, is your first impulse to say, the government should do something? To look for a big, centralized solution? Or is it to say, we can figure this out ourselves? To believe the answers are in our communities, with individuals? At the end of the day, are you a patriot or are you a loyalist?
So here's what I want you to do. First, really answer that question for yourself. Then, start using this test on the political leaders you follow. Don't listen to their slogans, watch their actions. Where do they really stand on this axis of power? And if you do that, I promise you, you will start to see our entire political world with fresh eyes. The only question left is, what are you going to see?